everyone, to another EcoMind Talks. I'm here today with Tye. Thank you, Tye, for your participation in this episode. I'm very, very excited for this talk. Tye has like a huge and amazing background in HR in the corporate world, so that's amazing, and I'm like very curious to hear a little bit more about that. So we are going to discuss today how she built this career on the service, and of course the learning she has across sectors and how things are different for her right now. So that will be like very, very exciting. I'll ask Tye to present herself as well a little bit, and then we can start with our chat.
Thank you so much for having me. I just truly appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. I am Tye Matthews. I am currently a human resources manager, and I manage our career services team, which is responsible for talent acquisition efforts, as well as our HR systems team, which means that we are stewards for all of our human resources systems, like a talent acquisition system, a time and leave system. And I also manage our data analytics team. So I'm super busy.
So you do everything in there.
Yes. But it's been an incredible journey. I absolutely love people. And so human resources is near and dear to my heart. And I just enjoy creating spaces of safety and nourishment and development for my team. So this is just an incredible stop for me.
That's amazing. I'm very curious to know more about it. So let's start. Well, my first question is, what does like having a service mindset truly means to you today?
I love this question. And for me, it's about being present. Right? It's showing up to completely understand what is needed before acting on something, right? So some may say, understand the assignment before you move forward, right? It's not about an image. It's not about being seen or performing. It's a true intention to be present and solve a problem. And I don't think it's about being perfect. It's about performing to solve a problem for our communities, for our teams, for our organization. So I find that the service mindset is now being overused, right? When we talk about how we give back, how we show up, it seems to be a very popular term, almost like a slogan. But I think that when we test it, right? When we create spaces where we actually test what that means, when it's inconvenient, when we don't always have the resources or the time to be of service, that's when the service mindset is actually tested, right? When we need to show up regardless of whether someone agrees with us or not. There are going to be many times we're going to be in spaces and environments where we need to serve our teams and our organizations and our communities and not be in total agreement, but still show up, present, ready to solve for, curious about what the needs are. So I think that is a service mindset, and listening deeply and actively, right? Not responding to just respond. Sometimes people will tell us what they need and the problems and challenges and obstacles that they're experiencing, and we're so quick to respond, but we're not really listening actively. We're not listening with empathy and compassion. And so service mindset really means to create a space and an ecosystem that really makes someone's life easier. So for me, that is my definition of a true service mindset.
That's amazing. And we don't always have the answers, right? But it's important to listen to other people to try to understand, or I don't know, or try to propose something, but we know that we don't always have the answers, and we are not ready sometimes to do some stuff, but it's a decision, and I think this is very, very good. I love how you say, like, we need to treat this with empathy, like this is like when we're dealing with people, this is the most important thing, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. People are not, we don't have a formula for people. People are not a math problem to solve. And sometimes there's some gray in how we deal with people on our teams, in our organization, in our communities. And so engaging people with kindness and compassion. And I just can't underscore listening intently, listening with curiosity. I think that really provides the service that people need.
Amazing. I love it. So, and in your daily basis in work, how this showed up to you, like, especially since you're like outside like traditional service sectors, like I figured, I think it's maybe more bureaucratic for you to do every process, or I don't know. I mean, everything maybe, but how this, show up for you in the daily work?
Yeah, so service, this shows up, honestly, especially in the public sector where I am now. It shows up in these very small moments, right, that require trust. I think it shows up differently depending on where you are. Each sector requires something different when it comes to service. But for me presently, service shows up in very small, quiet moments that absolutely require trust and intentionality. And it's how we design our processes and our methods and how we build our relationships and the care we take to communicate, which also illustrates how service shows up in our ecosystems and our environments, right? I am mindful of how I'm communicating with context, not just compliance, not just governance, not just policy, right? And dealing with systems and building systems and being a steward of systems. It's about how we are communicating and engaging our customers and our teams, where we're talking about the why. Why are we doing this? Why does this exist, right? Why are we needing to walk through this way? So I think that when you take time to create a space for context in the why, it is kind, it is compassionate, it eliminates chaos, right? Which can sort of show up very quickly without context, right? And even those that are behind the scenes, taking time to walk your team or your customers through things, sacrificing that time to provide a resource, to train, to upskill, to reskill, right? It ultimately is the outcome that people are looking for. That's going to touch their life in a real way. It's not a theory of service, it's the actuality of service and how it shows up for you every day, right? So has your life become easier throughout the business day through this service? So that's the measurement of it, right? Remembering that there's a human behind every spreadsheet, every software, right? Every process, every system, there's someone behind that these things are impacting. And so I think that that's the way it shows up in our everyday engagement, how we, conduct our businesses, our workflows, and especially our relationships.
And I think that's the importance of like training yourself to listening, because sometimes it's not that obvious how this will show up. Sometimes you are so like full of things and full of yourself, and you have to like, sometimes you neglect something that is very important that someone is saying to you. So I think that's pretty hard to like, how can I train myself to listen properly, like,
yes,
in these details in the daily basis? That's the question. I figured.
It is key. And especially, because I've worked both in the public and the private space has the tendency to move very fast. So our outcomes look differently in different ecosystems. And I think in the public sector, what I have learned and what has been my experience is that because the relationship piece is so key, the human impact piece is so key, you have a different perspective of the human impact versus an organization in a sector that is profit driven, where the outcomes look very different. So relationships matter in each environment, but the perspective is absolutely different when you think about the impact to the human being. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And That's a that's a question that I have, and it shows up like in every in every podcast that we record. It's like, how can we balance like purpose and like profits, especially in the corporate environment? Because I think maybe right now in the public sector is a little bit different, the outcome, like you said, but we know that in the private sector, for example, we are like always striving for like profits. So how can we balance that? How can we like apply this mindset in the corporate sections so we don't like neglect the purpose, the people, the culture?
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful question, and I'm so glad you asked it, because I think purpose is the cornerstone of everything that we do, especially in the workplace and within the work experience. And it doesn't really matter the sector, but I think that relative to profit-driven environments, I don't think that purpose and profit have to compete. I think that when you build systems or you build ecosystems or environments that respect people, when people are truly prioritized, when there truly is a people-centric focus, their time, their well-being, their health, their contributions, right? When we create these safe environments for people, you naturally create stronger results. So then you don't have the purpose competing with the profits, and the purpose and the profit can coexist. There's an American author. His name is Arthur Brooks, right? Arthur Brooks, a popular American author. And he writes about these ideas of happiness, right? How we all are trying to somehow pursue happiness and well-being. But he says that there's really a formula in that, and there are many things that contribute to sort of happiness. One of them is the idea that you are constantly working for your own success. So success does not just happen to you. Success is built in every day when you show up at your work environment and begin this experience of creating successful spaces, whether it's for your team, your organization. You and I talking right now, you are an active participant of your own happiness. So it does not just happen to you. And so your hard work is a part of being happy. And if you are in environments where you cannot contribute to the overall value of what's happening, that purposeful mission, then it starts to tear at the integrity of happiness. So I thought that that was so interesting, especially relative to this question of, you know, the competition of it. Yes, purpose is the cornerstone of every environment, and we can continue to make our customers happy. I worked for a company many years ago who religiously believed in the happiness of the customer and was very successful in making customers happy, right? Creating these pockets of purpose. What is the purpose of our business, our mission, our vision, our values? And so I think that companies and organizations that prioritize this, they thrive in the long term and not just the short term, right? That they connect the profit to the impact in a very, very real way.
That's amazing. You were talking, I was thinking like, sometimes we think that purpose is related to like achieving a goal or making a difference in the society or something like bigger and greater for the world. But sometimes you can like have a purpose to like be happy and to be satisfied with yourself and achieve your daily goals in the work. So that's a very good thing, because that's the point. Sometimes we try to like give the employees like, this is our company purpose, but sometimes we do not relate to that. But maybe if we try to like incentivize people like, okay, you can have a purpose for yourself, like to bribe to like achieve greater things for yourself. It doesn't need to be like related to the company purpose, for example. So I think that's amazing, because I was just like thinking about, and that's a great perspective on things.
Yes, yes, indeed. And just to add that, because what you say is so true, that for some the purpose is an inside job, right? I don't just show up at a company and attach myself to their purpose or their value. The alignment is in the value living within me. And so I can be a partner to that value because it's something that I'm doing every single day. It doesn't just turn on when I show up at 9 a.m. And sometimes the purpose is just simply being part of a team and doing my best. At the end of the day, I think knowing that I've exhausted all possibility to do the very best that I can for myself and my team. And that's when the alignment shows up, right? And I think that when you love that about yourself and you love what you do and you absolutely feel genuinely that you are contributing to a shared purpose, the profit shows up. The profit naturally appears, So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Here's the tips to companies to like attach to their EVPs. How can we create purpose on ourselves? So, and thinking about this difference that you are living right now, you are like almost 2 years in the judicial system, right? So, what are
years. Yep, 2 years. You're right.
2 years, yeah. So it goes so fast, time flies. But what are the main differences that you noticed so far? Like, what is the big differences in culture and like moving from a private to a public institution?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question because there are differences that are very apparent. And then there's some similarities, to be honest. The first cultural difference, I think, for me, in my experience, moving into the public sector, again, and is worth noting, from a lifetime of private sector work. So my entire career, every stop that I have made outside of nonprofit partnerships, for the most part, the core of my work experience has been in the private sector. So this time in the public sector is really different. But to answer the question, you notice the pace. The pace for me is the first thing that is absolutely noticeable, very much so. In the private sector, as you know, it's speed. Speed means productivity. Sometimes speed is also necessary when you are wanting to make sure that your customers have what they need. Scale is also important, right? The ability to scale over time. So these are just some things that are just built into the infrastructure of the private sector and what people need to do to be productive and meet the outcomes. In the public sector, the pace is not that. The pace is slower. That there is an absolute appreciation for taking things slowly, right? In the private sector, if you don't have the speed, the organization may not meet the outcomes that they're looking to achieve. But not only the organization, you as an employee, as an individual contributor, as a team leader, may also have some challenge because speed is part of the metric of success. It's a clear calculus in the private sector. In the public sector, we're slowing things down, right? Again, the idea of relationship is redefined. It's not a transactional relationship. It's not a relationship where I give you something and then you get something. It's a relationship that is slowly built in trust. Because tenure is a valuable metric in the public sector. In the private sector, you have folks usually looking for new opportunities at the very least every 3 to 5 years, right? In the public sector, you have folks that are committing to a tenure of 10, 15, 20, 30 years of service. So that relationship piece is so key, and you need to sort of slow down to build that with trust. It's not a profit-driven culture that's based on metrics. It's very different. And I've learned that the slowness of it doesn't mean that we're standing still. It actually creates this richness where you can actually get to know someone, get to know what they need, and then be able to better offer solutions to problems, create new systems. In the private sector, speed is great, but speed means that we might be breaking some things along the way, asking for forgiveness. So it's like, I know you know what I mean when I say, I need that in an hour, and you pray that it is exactly what is needed. Right here in this sector, we don't need everything in an hour. We might need things in a week. We might need things in a year. But when we show up and deliver it, there's so much quality there. There's collaboration there, right? That's where the relationship building comes in, is where now I have to reach across the aisle and ask for help and ask for collaboration. This idea of the individual being the hero, it is just not that way in the public sector all the time. So these are different things that are like really noticeable when you make a stop in the public sector, for me, in my experience.
And it's tough because you are used to this speed, so you have to get used to the new outcome. But I have a question out of the script that I was thinking about. How are the engagement politics like inside the public sector? Because we see in the private sector like growing every year, like mental health, politics, we have policies, we have engagement tools, and a lot of things that we are trying to use to help like measure the engagement of the employees, so we can predict if they are going to leave the company, if they are happy, or things like that. Just exactly what you said, that people are leaving like with 3 or 5 years in the company. So how this works like in the public sector? Is there a thing like people use tools, people do like researches or things like that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the difference in the private sector is that there are more resources to offer towards these initiatives and these ideas of wellness and happiness, and making sure that our employees have this incredible experience. But the public sector is absolutely there when it comes to ensuring that their community of employees, their community of stakeholders and team members are protected, that they feel safe. Ours is a broader perspective because we are serving the public. It is not just the organization, right? And if we do this wellness initiative, that the 300 employees here will feel great, or we have pizza every Friday. This is when you think about public sector, government sector organizations, it's ultimately serving the public need. So the state of Colorado, the city of Denver. So it becomes a very serious initiative. But yes, we want to take your pulse, right? We want to make sure that you want to show up every day, that you feel like you can make a mistake and not be penalized for it, that you have psychological safety, right? That you feel that, you can stay and grow for 10, 15 years and have some sort of career progression, right? That if something is happening with your family, that you can take time off and be a family member and care, So I think absolutely we're right there with it. The employee happiness, well-being, and just the working experience is so important now. It's not like it was 20, 30 years ago when you have one job, show up for work, do your job, and go home. It is not that anymore. So, yeah.
For sure. So it's nice to know. I was curious because when we think, we have stability, people are not leaving, so why care about that? But of course we have to care about that. But that's amazing. And to finish our amazing talk, so have you worked across industries with different approach to missions and profit? And what lessons did you take? What tips do you give to people like maybe facing that? So I want to understand a little bit more.
Yes, thank you for that question. I love it. Yes. working the private sectors, we spoke about, profit-driven environments, working in the public space, and then the nonprofit space. I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned is that the context matters, right? So the why, because it's not one size fits all. Every approach in every ecosystem is different, right? The organizations that I've worked for in the private sector, as we just spoke about, require agility. They require you to be able to flex, right? They require that you are creative and critical about how you think. Innovation is a value. And if it were not that way, many of the companies that I've worked for, which are incredible global companies, would not be able to thrive if innovation wasn't at the heart of what they did. So I think that the lesson of being able to understand the why, the context of each approach is key. The public sector, like we spoke about, is teaching me patience in such a real way, you have no idea. The idea of time and what I thought about time before I made this stop has absolutely changed. Being a steward, right? Being someone who cares for something is a lesson that I'm learning in this sector. I'm a steward of systems at the State Court Administrator's Office. I'm a steward of the employee experience by being a leader of people. I'm a steward of data integrity. I'm a steward of the candidate experience by leading our career services team. So these are all lessons of stewardship. Nonprofit ecosystems have taught me about vision, right? I'm a board member of a nonprofit called Teach by Tech here based in Denver, Colorado, which gives access to the refugee and immigrant community, right? This idea that you're giving access to these communities, that's a vision. And how do we execute on that vision? My husband is a successful founder and CEO of a nonprofit as well. So, the idea of vision and how you implement that vision into alignment and execution is a lesson that I've also learned. So all of these three things have offered a layered balance for me as a leader. So super happy to have taken all of these lessons, these missions and approaches to value and vision and how we actually execute on it, and sort of layer it in to how I think about leading a team.
Amazing. So you work in all sectors, non-profit, profit, public. That's amazing. You have a lot of experience. That's very, very good. I think I have multiple questions in my head about, but unfortunately, we don't have the time for that. But I'm very, very thrilled to get to know a little bit better about that, because for me, for example, I don't have a lot of experience in the public sector, so it's how this works, how to work with no speed, with no no pressure all the time. So that's amazing, and I think, of course, you guys do an amazing job. And so very, 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 very thank you for this conversation. I think it was amazing. If we had more time, I would probably stay here for all afternoon, because right now I have more questions than before, but it was amazing. And thank you again. And if you want to share anything else for, I don't know, maybe a tip for someone who is facing the same things that you are facing and that you already faced, but moving to a private sector to a public sector, or either way around, it's probably difficult as well. So if you have a final tip to share, it would be great.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the invitation, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to have an incredible conversation with you. My tip would be onward and upward for all. I think that whatever sector you land in is a choice. And so I enjoy the public sector. I enjoy community. This sector has a cornerstone of community, no matter where you are, whether that's higher ed or whether that's in branches of the government. There are many places that you can sort of add your own level of expertise to these environments. But I think wherever you stop, the intentionality of that stop is key. Your question around purpose is key, that, you know, we want to make a difference and we want to feel like our work is valued. And so if we can just sort of keep that in mind as we move forward, I think we'll be better off that way.
For HR, this is like the key thing, right? It's hard because dealing with people with like a lot, but thank you so much, Tye. I'm very, very pleased to talk to you, and have a nice day.